Hey guys, welcome to Let's Discuss Capital. I'm your host Avinash. Today we have an extraordinary guest joining us. She is a legal powerhouse, a trailblazer, and a true advocate for legal operations. Please give a warm welcome to Shahana Satyanarayan. She is a seasoned legal strategist with over 15 years of experience in shaping legal landscapes for business and leaders. So, Sahana, thanks a lot for joining on the podcast.
Thank you, Avinash. Thank you for having me here. It's been my pleasure to be one of your guests on this podcast.
The pleasure is all mine. So, let me start. My first question is, having spent more than 5 years as an independent consultant in a law firm before transitioning to your in-house role, could you share the motivation behind this shift and the key adjustments you had to make?
Yes, usually, from transitioning from an independent consultant to an in-house counsel role typically involves a lot of adjustments that we have to make. And of course, yes, there are some motivating factors also. Like, the first is the stability and security. Moving into in-house, you have a more stable and predictable work environment compared to the fluctuations of the independent consulting. So that the stability can be more appealing, when it comes to, work-life balance and a consistent income. So that's one. And of course, yes, there is a deeper integration when you are a in-house counsel. It's like, you have an opportunity to become deeply integrated into the operation and decision-making process of the company that you are employed in. So that's one. And again, this integration allows you to understand what the business is, what are their objectives, and how can you add value from your legal expertise and acumen and integrate it to this objectives. So that is something that is always that I wanted to look upon. And of course, yes, as an independent consultant, you are focusing on multiple clients. But here again, as an in-house counsel, your only client is your employer. And it actually gets very rewarding as you close on more contracts, more deals, and it's personally very rewarding. And of course, yes, there are a lot of adjustments that we, when there's a transition happening. So one is that, you have to have that shift in the perspective. Like I said, it's not about what you want to talk. It's also about what the other person wants to hear. So as an independent consultant, you would be only like, these are the legal principles and this is how you need to follow. But when you are in between a group of people who are actually looking for the objective, the business, so your legal advices should align to the objectives of the business. And that is when you have to mend your legal principles into such that it actually fits into the tube of the objectives of the legal business. So these are the adjustments that I made in my transitioning time. And of course, yes, it's been like 5 years now, we're transitioning from a house to the legal counsel. So yes, it's been personally very rewarding to me.
Thanks for sharing that remarkable story. And my follow-up question is that, like, as you said that, as an external counsel, you are more just concerned about the law. Okay, these are the risks associated with that. But as an in-house, you have to, do the right word was frame or modify. What was the word that did you use?
It's like you need to tell what the other person wants to hear.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Right. But see, that's what I'm saying, right? Doesn't this brings you in a very controversial and a very difficult position because law is what it is and the business is what it is, right? Business objectives are there.
Yeah, but it's
How
not...
did you manage this?
So it was not controversial or something which, it's just that how you articulated it, I must say, Say, suppose you cannot say, okay, this is what the legal principle is. Yes, of course, yes, it is. But this is what the business needs are. How can I meet the compliance standards or the business needs, ensure that the company is covered, one, two, the interests of the company are covered legally, and at the same time, how far we are ensuring compliance, ensuring that there is a win-win situation both the ends, instead of, just saying, okay, it's not a deal breaker kind of, like if this or that. So we have to always find a mid ground. So that is where I feel a role of in-house counsel makes it more comfortable when you have reached that mid ground.
Remarkable insights there. And see, this is one statement I think I hear a lot is as an in-house counsel, a lot of people management is also required versus just like knowing your shit and like knowing all the laws that, are going to affect. Like people management becomes really important. So how do you think people should develop these skills?
Yes, as an in-house counsel, you're not just doing your work independently, like you're in my organization. I'm a one-woman army, I can say that, because I handle the legal aspects alone. And yes, of course, yes, I do my work, but I am integrated into all the other teams, like the business teams, the finance, the HR, and the operations teams. So there are a lot of things that I need to take the inputs on what the business is, what the business perspectives are, what are the commercial angles involved in it, and if any contract is there for a negotiation, what is it the client is wanting? How big is the business? And how I can ensure that without breaking the deal, how we can very tactfully ensure that our interests are covered at the same time. We give this leverage to the client that yeah, we are in principle agreeing to this. But however, this is what we have been doing and this is what we would request you to retain in our clauses. So these things will help, to ensure we are on the right path of the negotiation and the contracts. At the same time, of course, yes, the business is happy that at the end and the legal is not making any problems. So that's like, there's no lot of back and forth happening. There's not a lot of redlining happening in the contracts. So, of course, yes, it's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A very good friend of mine once told me, in contracting and in negotiation, you should know the rules, but you should also know when to break the rules, right? And I think that's really the key to find a win-win situation. Okay, let me ask an interesting question. Because I saw like in your profile, you were an independent counsel and then you moved to in-house. And some people feel that that's a better trajectory, that's a better path to become an in-house counsel. And some people believe that, it's all about knowing your in-house shit. And the quicker you move as an in-house counsel, essentially, if you have started your career as an in-house counsel, ultimately you will become a better in-house counsel. So what are your thoughts on this?
Of course, yes, there is always a growth trajectory you will always see, like in the initial years as an in-house counsel, you will try to understand on the modalities and the integration within the internal stakeholders. And then when you are interacting with your clients and their legal teams, so your understanding towards the law and the business, one, it is that your acumen as a legal professional will increase threefolds. That's what I felt. And communication is the key in the entire aspect. And of course, yes, you will be an in-house counsel, then you will become a group counsel, then you are going to be a general counsel. So this is the career growth that as an in-house counsel get to see. Just for one company or an independent consultant, of course, yes, we'll have multiple clients. We would have reached the same heights, but it's a different ballgame altogether into a corporate. I think both are equally rewarding, but for me, it was
very diplomatic answer. Very diplomatic. I will not accept this answer. You have to give me a final answer. Which is the better path? Your path or the other people's path?
For me, my path was very good. I mean, I have focused that, okay, this is what I want to become. In the next 5 years, do I want to be still an in-house counsel? Yes, maybe. And I also want to be on the board of advisory as an independent director. So this is what I have had my path. Now, what is it for me in the next 5 years? What is it for me in the next 10 years? So I have that goal. But yeah, maybe when I feel that, okay, I'm tired, let me not get into the corporate this thing. Let me just sit and relax and have my consulting done. Of course, yes, I think I could also do that in the next part of my life or in the next 10 years. But yes, I think both have its own good and bads.
Again, very diplomatic answer, but I'll let it slide. So, your answer gave me a very interesting thought. My question is that, when you're looking at the career of the people, a lot of people are shifting from an independent counsel to in-house. But you don't see that happening a lot in the reverse direction. A lot of people as an in-house counsel becoming an independent counsel. So do you have any guess why that may be the case?
Because, see, there's one sense of security and if there's a stable job, like you are covered in that position wherein you are getting elevated day by day and your responsibilities are getting more and more. Be it in one company, you may be in one company today, after 4 years, you feel like, okay, I have learned enough about this particular industry. I want to venture out. Then suppose, for example, I am now in a commercial real estate industry. Say now in the 6 to 8 years, I feel like I should work in a technology industry. So I may transition from one industry to another industry and gain more acumen and expertise among all industries and, reach a height where, I'm a person who has legal acumen about all the industries. And that entire expertise at the end of 10, 15 years is a different experience altogether. So yes, that is where people would also think like, maybe after once they retire as 50, 55, then they feel like, okay, yeah, I've had all this. Let me now become an independent director or be a corporate advisory as a board member. So that is where the career usually takes to people with that.
Makes sense. Great answer there. So now let me ask a very interesting question. And this is because you have, donned both the hats. My question is, if animals were to pursue legal careers, which species do you think would excel as a litigator, and which animal would be best suited for an in-house role?
In that case, I would say, as the realm of litigators, I think, you need to have certain qualities. Like you should have that assertiveness, intelligence, and you should have the ability to communicate effectively. So I feel chimpanzees, bonobos, who are known for their complex social behavior might excel in the field of litigation. And also dolphins for that matter. They are a very highly intelligent species. And when it comes to in-house counsels, you need to have that key attention to detail, adaptability, and you need to have a structured environment to work. So I think octopus
Yeah.
may be the species that would fit into a
Right.
sponsor role. So you feel that you have this small 5 fingers, but when the octopus actually, encounters this, it's a very difficult.
Great analogy there. What I feel is that, especially one person army like you who are working in a company, I interact with them a lot and I've had the fortunate to being friends of some of them. And what I feel is that they're really overworked. The amount of work and the amount of things single legal department person are juggling is just astonishing to me. That brings me to a very interesting question that I have had thought about a lot. What is the right time a company or a startup should hire their first legal counsel?
What usually happens, like for the first 4, 5 years, or 5, 6 years, everything is outsourced to the externals. It become more of a case-to-case basis, or when there's only contracts coming in. But at one point in time, what the businesses start feeling is, there is a need for somebody, when there's a quick turnaround and comes into demand. That is where, people think, okay, yes, we need to have a legal resource who's going to be an in-house in the company. So I think, yes, preferably in the past 2, 3 years. But I think the trend is very different these days. The startup will have, from the day one, there is an in-house counsel already there. They would look into the end-to-end compliance of the company, would also do a legal check, the compliance, the risk management. So everything starts from day one. I think the trend is slowly changing where, like, let's push it out to the externals. Instead, the companies are now focusing on having an in-house team of lawyers themselves.
Wise words, Shahana. Now, data privacy and AI being the hot topic these days, my question is, with data privacy, technology, regulations constantly evolving, how do you ensure that you stay updated and your teams remain prepared for the upcoming changes?
I think continuous learning. I mean, of course, as you rightly mentioned, like you have a new set of technological rules. Of course, AI, generative AI, ChatGPT, and many things coming in. There's a lot of new technologies coming in, and it becomes very important for we lawyers, especially now, to stay updated. And we have to focus on continuous learning. That's the only way you ensure that you are on the right track, ensuring that you are updated yourself. So, and of course, yes, there are a lot of professional development that we can take up, like seminars, workshops, lot of conferences that take place and subscribing, newsletters, blogs, and the like. And of course, networking within the legal community that will help you a lot to ensure that you stay updated. So the seminars and workshops may only give you a legal insight as to what is happening, but networking at a larger scale within the legal community will help you understand the experiences, what the other person is actually facing is also something that you tend to take up. And of course, yes, adopting the legal technology. It's like, I think we should embrace, like initially there was only smartphones which had only less features. Now the smartphones also have AI and everything. So likewise, I think even in our data management or be it our compliance monitoring, so I think we should also embrace legal technology solutions and ensure that we, as a in-house consular department, the process has to set with the right AI-powered tools, such that the mundane tasks of review or just this thing is taken care and streamlined within the AI itself, and there is no much work that human can put into it.
Wow, great insights. And this brings me to the next question I was going to ask. You mentioned about legal technology and mundane tasks. So imagine that you had a genie who could grant you or who could take away 3 mundane tasks that you're performing right now. What would be those 3 mundane tasks?
So in that case, I would recommend something which, if I have had a genie and if you could just give me 3 tasks, first way should be like to have an enhanced document review, some AI-powered document system which can, accurately and efficiently analyze all the legal documents and all the contracts, any case laws that I specifically need to, give it somewhere, something like that, which also would help me, saving significant time for legal research or any due diligence tasks. And the next is giving me an analytics to risk management. Say, suppose if I had a contract review to be done like for 400 or 500 pages, and what I would only see is where the risk clauses or something which has a liability clause. And instead of I going through all 500 pages, the AI tool only picked up the risk clauses or the liquidity clauses that would help me to quickly identify such risk management takes. And automated contract drafting, which will help us. Say, suppose I need to send an NDA to somebody and all I just need is just give it. And I also feel personally on the MS Word, the copy replace option there is there. Sometimes, like in a huge document, how much of you are perfect or you do a thorough review of your documents. There are such human errors which we get into it. I think AI can help us there. And of course, yes, these would be my request from Genie.
Thanks for providing such great examples. But I had this curiosity and I wanted to understand it a little further. When companies, in the growth hierarchy as your company is, what are the typical documents a company has to face? What are the top 3 documents?
NDAs, customer contracts, vendor contracts. These are the top 3 I can know.
Right. Amazing. This is what I wanted to understand. Because this is something I'm also trying to understand in my personal and professional life. What constitutes a good review? Like, how do lawyers evaluate whether the review done by another human or AI for that matter, is it good or average or really bad?
Of course, for me, and when I have set a SOP, like this is what is allowed, this is not allowed. Of course, yes, as a mandate from the company and the business or the management aspect, this is what is the risk appetite. Like in a contract or in a project that we can take up. And this is what is our limitations. So at any given point, be it in the reps and warranties or in the intellectual property or in any of your indemnities or your liability clauses or even your insurance clauses and in your termination clauses, we need to ensure that we are not going to cross that line. So these are the things which we have to very thoroughly review it. And of course, yes, if it is not as per our acceptance or if it is something that we cannot accept, we usually push it back. Then there's a negotiation and again back and forth negotiations. And somewhere, of course, yes, when we try to make the client understand or the vendor understand what is the intention behind these modalities and the clauses that we have put up. And of course, yes, there are sometimes that we get into convincing more and the client or the vendor get usually convinced. And yes, it's going to be a good to go contract. But again, certain things may not happen all the time the same way. And we have to somewhere at that time amend our views on that particular point and see where we can reach the mid ground and what is the risk appetite the company has or that particular project requires. So all these objectives from the business becomes very crucial at the end of the contract negotiation.
That's thought-provoking perspective. Because we have been informed from quite credible sources that you are a fascinating legal strategist. So my question is, how do you perceive the potential of AI in legal compliance and risk management? How do you think AI tools can, increase efficiency and business growth within the legal department?
I think it has an immense potential, Avinash, especially, into legal compliance and risk management, if I have to say. So tools can, analyze vast amount of legal data quickly and accurately. So it can identify patterns or risk and compliance issues that may be missed by humans. So these kind of things can help us. I think predictive analytics, that is what I see, AI-powered predictive analytics, which help us, forecast potential legal risks. Dashboard wherein you can say, okay, this contract or these are the risks, these are the things that needs to be taken care of, or these are the challenges that is there. So I think these kind of analytics from the AI tools will help ensure that we are alerts us and it can help reducing legal risks and exposures and potential liabilities. Also, we can streamline the processes. It can free up our high volume tasks, like you said, as in you are mostly overworked. With AI, we can ensure that higher value tasks are taken up only when all the mundane tasks can be taken over by AI, and only complex legal matters or only which would actually matters to contribute to the business growth can be taken care by us humans. So that way, I think AI can definitely help to ensure that the legal departments are processed well, and that enables to business growth. Totally.
Wow. Very interesting points there. And you spoke about the concept of predictive analytics. And one of the best use case for this is helping in-house counsels build a better litigation strategy. So what are your thoughts on leveraging AI-powered analytics to better inform in-house departments' decision whether to actually go and prosecute the case or whether explore other avenues?
Well, of course, yes, in the in-house roles wherein there are prosecutions which would cover if we have to sue a company or any of our vendors. Even before we take the prosecution route, I think we will have our other ways to ensure that we don't end up in a litigation in the first place. So we have a mediation, or we also get into an arbitration and ensure that there is a mutual understanding, or, place where you can settle off your matters before it goes to the court. That is what I think in-house counsel should actually aim at, not waste time on litigation in the long run. But eventually, whatever has to go to a litigation will definitely go. But however, I think as a primary focus of an in-house counsel should be always to ensure that there are as less as litigations to pop up in the company. Well, it saves a lot of time, saves definitely a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point there. This brings to a very interesting topic. Recently, we built a predictive analytic tool for a IP firm in the US. So they told us, okay, these are the categories, these are the factors that we're looking for. And right now, after 6 to 7 months, we have been 90 to 80% accurate in terms of our predictive analytics. But that brought me a very interesting observation that how do we build a tool like this for Indian legal departments? Because if you look at, especially for the IP litigation, it's all about the interim relief, right? If you get interim relief, you are set. If you don't, then there's very few judgments on final merit of the case, should I say. This is the point number one. And the second point I wanted to bring, for Western companies, litigations are hugely expensive. When we compare it to the Indian litigation, obviously it's expensive, but it's not as expensive as our Western counterparts have to incur. So how do you balance these two factors? Understanding that, you have very few precedents. Because if there is some particular area that you are, deciding, a lot of times there's not a huge number of cases to, give your exact data. And the second thing is the litigation itself is not really that expensive. So how do Indian legal departments decide in general whether to go for a litigation or, go for a settlement or some other avenue?
See, again, I think you'll have to assess what the situation of the case is. So only you feel that, okay, even if I vote on the litigation mode, will this stand for me? So I think that is the primary decision that the company has to make. And two is, are you ready to invest the time and money that it requires? Or again, of course, as you said, litigation is expensive. So are the litigators. Because yes, I may be an in-house counsel. And of course, if there is a litigation, I'll have to again hire an external counsel board. So again, the cost is almost double. So there is a cost added to it. And it is not just one day's job. So it typically takes 2 to 3 years of your time. So do you want to invest that time and money? So I think this is the first question a company will definitely first see before taking a call to go into litigation. Of course, yes, if it takes a turn of, a criminal activity or anything as such, of course, yes, the route becomes, as usual as, yes, of course, we would have to follow the same rule. But however, otherwise, in case if there is an IP litigation or if there is a service breach or breach from another company. So I think these could be dealt even without taking into a litigation mode, and ensure that all this is covered in your contracts really well. So in case if there's a breach and if your vendors are not in the position to cover that breach, how are they sure they have a professional indemnities in place so that even in such breaches, your vendor is ready to indemnify you for such breaches? Are they covered with such insurance? So I think it again comes to the bottom line of, how efficient your contract drafting is. And what are the key factors you have included in it, and such that, it gets resolved there itself, then it goes to the court.
Wow, very thought-provoking answer. That kind of brings me to a funny questions, because we all have seen those Western sitcoms where, a guy will say, I will sue you. And we have had that impression that in Western countries, there's a lot of frivolous suits being filed. After being an in-house counsel for such a long time, what are your thoughts on companies being subjected to frivolous suits in India?
I think it's just waste of their time. I mean, even if for something which is very simple or a minute task which could be negotiated sitting across a table could help you, I don't think you would be investing your time. I mean, of course, yes, I have been a lawyer, an independent consultant. I have had cases fight myself. But in a scenario wherein everything is just moving, we don't even watch or read for 2 minutes a day these days. Time is money. When the scenario is time is money, and with all the respect for the people who are litigators, I feel that litigation should always be your last resort and not the first one. Like I said, you need to decide whether it is really something that you want to invest on. It's just like your investment portfolio. Do you want to invest on gold or the money or real estate? Likewise, do you really want to invest on a litigation as a company? That definitely matters.
Wise words there, Shahana. As we all know, every company is adopting AI technologies left, right, and center.
Yes.
So my question is, as an in-house counsel, how would you ensure the responsible and unbiased implementation of AI technologies within the legal department and outside the legal department?
I think ethical framework, like you need to have that establish a clear guidelines and principles to use the AI technologies within the department. So this framework should emphasize fair values like fairness, transparency, accountability, and non-discrimination. So these are I think you need to first establish a framework to use AI in a specific way and to ensure that the ethical standards are upheld. And also you need to have strategies to mitigate bias. So I think that's something very important. You need to have measures to identify and mitigate bias in the algorithms and data set that's used in any legal applications. So this may include, like conducting a bias audit, diversifying the data training, even using algorithmic fairness techniques so that the AI system produce equitable outcomes for all the stakeholders. And of course, yes, there should be a transparency and explainability to what the AI is and
how is it coming up
yes,
with
and
the answers?
yeah, and how is it helping your decision making process? How are the data points are integrated and how is the analytics that is getting produced. So again, reliability and, we need to have that validity and that potential that the AI should feature. Human oversight and review, of course, yes, we are at the end of the day humans and we do tend to make mistakes. So that is taken care of.
This is what worries me. How a legal person is supposed to understand all these concepts and whether the data is biased or not. Like how a legal person would actually go there and understand that.
Yeah. We need to make sure that we run such audits. What are the data points we are giving to the AI to come up with an answer? So it's not that AI can do everything by itself. Of course, we have to intervene to ensure that the algorithms that the data are running in or the people who are developing such AI tools for the legal realm are, somebody who are more fully like you, of course. Yes, we are also into the same realm. There should be people who knows that, okay, these are my data. This is what the algorithms that if we run, and this is where there's no bias in the data that will come in. I think that's the only way. I mean, of course, yes, you would know because you are into the same world. Lawyers like me wouldn't know.
Exactly. This is what worries me, that how would lawyers in future would be ensuring compliance when the technology itself is getting so complicated. Like off the record, we were talking about some secret AI experiments we are doing for better targeting. So my question is, I know what the data points have been given. The results they are producing may be fair, they may not be fair. So what do you predict in the future? So imagine this, there's an AI we are using to target our prospective clients. There are a lot of factors that are feeding into the system, and the AI is producing that here you have the best probability. And the AI is not explainable. The AI can't explain that. A lot of lawyers, I think, confuse on this point that they presume that most of the AI is explainable, but that's actually not the case. So, right, imagine this, that AI is not explainable. It is telling us to target customers in this way. We are not offering any model to the third party, but we are using this tool in-house. Do you think in future, a company like me will be in hot waters because we are using an unexplainable AI and an AI which is biased?
I think even the companies who are making AI tools should also ensure customization to extend that what the company really wants. Say, suppose if we have to take in the industry that I work in, our commercial real estate setup, we look into a lot of factors as to what our clientele should be, what the business modalities are. The tool making company should ensure that they understand the modalities of what the industry is, industry type is, or industry subtype is, and get into the objective of that business.
Right.
Then I think it can take up data points. It should have business objectives. What is the competitive analysis? What are the competitors? What is the compliance element that such kind of business has? What are the raw materials that is required, or what are the clienteles? What is the financial trajectory that it should maintain? So these are the data points that I think should be fed in an accurate way, which should suit from an industry to industry. Of course, yes, it has to be thoroughly customized as to what your client really wants. So only if these data are captured in the right way, I think only then AI can be productive of what it can provide.
Very wise words there, Shahana. And this brings to a very interesting question which is being asked to me more and more every day. The question is like this. I am a company, I am doing XYZ business. Now there's this third-party company, AI provider company comes to me and they says, okay, take my AI model. Now the first company which is doing XYZ business, it is asking whether I should insist upon an indemnity clause. Later on, if there is some future regulation that comes into the picture, or it's some future lawsuits that come into the picture on me because I used your model, should I insist upon an indemnity clause?
Of course, yes. I would say that should be your foundational clause. I mean, it should be your main clause because you never know how the future is shaping up, especially in this trend. Today, maybe AI or Chat GPT, or maybe 5 years down the line, I think we don't know what technology would emerge.
Right.
So I think, yes, since the technology is so evolving, so are the laws. There's always been like that. Initially, there was no computers. Then there were a lot of IT crimes happened. Then we had IT law in place in India. So in the other countries, then now there is a lot of data breaches. So there is a lot of importance on the data privacy.
Right.
I think every step or every technology or every improvisation that happens, I think that will have some hiccups here and there, which will make the regulators ensure that such regulations are there, that NEP compliance is there so that the companies can run in a smooth way. So yes, I think you don't know next 5 years what would come up.
Exactly. This brings me to the other side of the table. Now think about these AI tools companies. Now, as you said, that whomsoever they are selling, they should insist upon indemnity clause. Now, these AI tool companies are coming up and saying that, guys, if we agree on this, we are essentially agreeing to uncapped liability, isn't it? If you put a cap on it by saying, 300% or 400% cap, then the other company is saying, I don't know, this may be sufficient, this may not be sufficient. And the AI tool company is now thinking, by agreeing to this, are we betting our company? Like, how would you navigate if you are an in-house counsel of an AI tool company?
I think there's a two-way to look at it, Say, suppose if I'm capping the liability for 4x or 5x.
Right.
Say, suppose it's a 1 crore contract or a 10 crore contract of an building the AI tool. 10x is what? 5x is what 50 crores. In the 5 years down the line, what if the liability that the company would occur may not even be 5 crores? Why would I be giving you the 5x of the cap? So if there's an unlimited cap, of course, yes, that would get into a litigation mode. It would get into a discussion as to we will be only liable to what is the loss that is incurred. So that is also one way to look at it. And then the other way to look at it is that it's always better to cap your liability to the contract value. That is what I usually see. Whatever be the industry, like even if you are an AI tool company, I would definitely cap my liabilities to whatever is the contract value. And of course, yes, everything has its own validity. I mean, we would have a run-up contract, maybe we would be only doing for 2 years or 3 years. And that, of course, yes, the validity in the contract is also something that will be a factor to consider upon. Another key factors that what actually made this loss be incurred is also a factor that has to get investigated in a very systematic way. And we have to see if such losses are occurred solely because of us. Is this attributable to us? So these are the things, again, we have to cross-verify and then see, and what is it that we have to be payable of or liable of.
Absolutely. Well said, Shahana. So now get to the rapid fire section. You have to answer these questions very quickly. The first question is, guilty or not guilty? Staying up all night to finish legal briefs.
Not guilty. I mean, of course,
You're lucky.
I'm not guilty of it.
Okay, second question. Jury is still out on this pineapple pizza.
I'm not in for it. I mean, I love my pizzas with cheese. But of course, yes, maybe people who like both salt and savory or the cheesy part.
All lawyers are so diplomatic. Third question, paper airplane champion or keyboard shortcut master?
Keyboard shortcut master, because efficiency is the key.
Wise words. Fourth question, your biography, if written today, what would be the title?
I would say unstoppable.
Wow, really creative answer there. As we are running out of time, let me ask you the last question. What advice would you offer to aspiring legal professionals who aim to follow a career path similar to yours?
Well, I think now the trend has changed. I think I was a 90s kid. I was a 2010 pass out lawyer. We had our very restrictive growth. And of course, yes, there was a different journey for us. Today's professionals are much way smarter. But of course, yes, I think for people who want to follow an in-house career path, you should gain diverse experience coming into this role, which will help you become a person who are with a well-rounded skill set and perspective. So which is very important. You have to always focus on continuous learning. That is something is always, like you are a student of law all through your life. You be a lawyer or in-house counsel or a group counsel or a head of legal or a Supreme Court judge for that matter. You have to always ensure you focus on the continuous learning. That will only help you ensure that you stay updated in the legal developments and trends. And I think as human beings, we have to develop analytical and problem-solving skills. We have to think that analytical skills are really very important these days. We need to ensure that we address legal issues and provide strategic advices to clients. So this becomes really very helpful. And of course, yes, we need to ensure we build a very good, robust professional network wherein, we get support, insights, and collaboration from professionals throughout our career. We have to always embrace the technology and innovation. Strong communication skills. I think communication is the key, like these days, if you are a good communicator, I think half job is already done. All you need to have that ethical integrity. I think these would be my few cents to the young professionals who want to, navigate into the in-house legal role.
Very wise words there, Shana. And one of the questions I get asked a lot by law students these days is that getting your first job as an in-house counsel is really difficult. So what would be your advice if somebody wants to ultimately become an in-house counsel? What should be they doing in the law school? Should they be doing more internships there? What should be their focus?
Of course, yes, nowadays it's become really very easy for people to get hired by the companies. Just like any other engineering backgrounds, there are campus hirings happening for the law schools as well. Of course, yes, internships and companies between your summer breaks will definitely help. One is you'll understand not just your work profile, but you'll also understand what the company is about. So that exposure is very important. But I think these days it's really very easy, not like our times is what I feel. I mean, of course, yes, it comes with their own set of checks and balances and expertise and everything, what the person is bringing to the table. Ultimately, you need to have that right mindset to ensure that you can adapt and align to what the business is. So I think that becomes really very important.
Thanks for those invaluable lessons. So Shahana, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast. It was absolute blast. We had such an amazing experience.
Thank you so much, Avinash. Thanks for this wonderful opportunity. This has been an interview with a very different approach. I mean, usually the last night it was a job interview. After that, I have never had an interview like this. So this will definitely be a very remarkable and a very memorable one for me because it was a very good interaction and it was really very nice. Thank you so much for having me at your podcast. Thank you.
No worries, Shahana. The pleasure was all mine. Thanks again for coming on the podcast. Thank you for tuning in another enlightening episode of Let's Discuss Cafe. If you enjoyed today's conversation with Shahana, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Until the next time, remember, legal excellence is the foundation of business success. Stay legally empowered, and we will catch you in the next episode.